Oh, yes. Okay, so the other book that we are reviewing this week is also part of this line that Fantagraphics is putting out. This is a book in the Gil Jordan Private Detective series. So he's this young private detective character. And the name of this book is Murder by High Tide. That is the name of one of two stories reprinted in this volume. That story, Murder by High Tide, begins, as you might expect, with what at first appears to be an accidental drowning, and then is revealed to perhaps have actually been a murder with some art fraud involved, and it turns into this big kind of elaborate adventure that the private detective Gil Jordan needs to investigate. So that was the first story in this book, and then it's followed by a second story about a sort of unconventional prison escape. And that second story is a lot, probably not as strong as the first story in the book. It's a little
goofy.
It's a little over the top as far as the material goes, but there were some really nice action chase scenes in there. So yeah, I actually just read this afternoon, and like quickly trying to get ready for the podcast tonight. But I really enjoyed this one too. I was surprised by how it was a thicker book, and it looked, kind of flipping through it, the small panels maybe a little bit verbose. But I was surprised by how quickly it went along. At least, especially the first story, what a nice, tightly constructed mystery it was. Yep. It was just a fun story. The character of Gil Jordan, who's obviously reminiscent of sort of a Tintin type. He's even got kind of a distinctive hairdo, which kind of reminded me like a cross between Tintin and Dagwood from Blondie. He's got like wisps of hair.
Yeah.
He's sort of a blank as a character. There's not really much to him. As far as I could ascertain, his only real character trait was that he was a really good tipper.
Yeah.
That was something that came up, but other than that, he was just very straightforward. I assumed it would be about a boy detective, a teenager, because the character looks very young, but there were really no references made to that in the book. So I'm assuming he just looks young, or is probably a young man, but not really a teenage boy as he appears to be. And of course, as in detective fiction, he has kind of his crew of people that help him. So there's an Inspector Crouton, I think they translate his name as. He's got a pudgy sidekick. There's kind of a rivalry between those two. He's got a sexy, sassy secretary. So it's a somewhat colorful group of characters, but still sort of stock characters.
Oh yeah. Very one note.
Yeah. So it's really a book that highlights story over anything else, over characterization, over innovation. But they're good stories.
They're really good stories.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's great. I don't know how long this series ran, but again, I like the idea that it existed and that it was written for mass entertainment. It doesn't have any kind of pretensions to be anything other than what it is, which is well constructed, very well constructed, very well drawn. This one's by Maurice Tolu. The other one we probably didn't. Oh, I did mention the name. Raymond Macro. Both very, very good artists. The second book, as I said, which doesn't have as strong of a story, had some really nice action sequences that were very well done.
Chase through the
it really moved. So I mean, what a great book! I read it this afternoon on my day off, and it was a great time reading. I thought it was wonderful. And again, kind of the same way that I enjoyed Sibyl-Anne. I enjoyed it for itself, and I enjoyed it even more as kind of a window into this world of the golden age of Franco-Belgian comics that Fantagraphics is putting out. And I like that the books match. They all have a nice uniform design and these nice hardcovers. So yeah, I kind of want to get all of them. It was well done. Do you like Gil Jordan a lot too?
I did. I think I may have preferred it to Sibyl-Anne just a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the characters and the goofiness of Sibyl-Anne. Murder by High Tide, it really is the stories that really make it. I mean, the characters are like nothing. They could have put pretty much any character into it.
They're types, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the characters. I actually chuckled a couple of times at some of the banter between. I did.
The banter, okay.
Yeah, between the kind of Crackerjack is the chubby sidekick.
Yeah, he tells
name.
some jokes that aren't funny, that are obviously not funny,
Yeah.
and nobody else finds them funny
Right.
except for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of whatever, but
Yeah, it's not. No, it's definitely nothing like groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But it was charming and
It was
and
very charming.
sharp and well done. And I feel like if a comic book, like an American comic book company, put out something this good, just like right now, just released it under like a kid's imprint or something, it would probably be canceled after a couple of months. But also be critically acclaimed just for the level of craft.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you know, I'm sure Fantagraphics is cherry picking a little bit. I mean, it was the golden age of these French comics, but I'm sure there was a lot of mediocre material put out at the time as well.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of cool just taking a look at how good these comics were coming out at that time that American audiences have until now really been unaware of. So yeah, I did think the characters were stock and one note, but you know, they were types, but they were entertaining types.
Yeah.
And the one notes that were played were good notes. You know what I mean? And it was the right way to get across the stories that the writer artist was telling. So I don't even really say that as a knock. I just kind of say that as like, that's kind of what this book does. You know what I mean? It's not reinventing the wheel, but it's a fine example of a comic book of its type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So I probably slightly preferred it to Sibyl-Anne as well, but only slightly. I think they were like, if you like funny animal comics, Sibyl-Anne is a really good example of that. If you like detective fiction, Gil Jordan is a really good example of that.
Yeah, they're very different from one another.
They are,
obviously,
and I'm sure they're quite different than the other books that Fantagraphics has released in this line, which were more contemporary.
Yep. The Littlest Parrot King
Littlest Parrot King.
My favorite book of last year, actually. So that indicates the quality that Fantagraphics is putting out there for this line. I absolutely loved that book. So.
Yeah, so I look forward to seeing what they're going to do. I think it's these were two really, strong entries. I'm glad I probably would not have read them if not for this podcast. So I'm glad I did. They were both really good. So I would encourage people to check them out, especially if you're, like I said, it's you know, if you can only read 10 comics in your life, you don't need to have these on your top 10 list. But if you're interested in the wider world of international comics. These books that Fantagraphics is putting out is a great way to sample some really good stuff by some top-notch cartoonists.
And like last week, we did Wandering Sun, which was Fantagraphics' line that they're doing of manga, and now they have this other line of the Franco-Belgian comics.
So, in conclusion, Fantagraphics should really be sending us review copies. Just kidding.
No, but they obviously want to get a wide variety of books out there, and they have these great lines. They do the Jacques Tardy books too. They know what they're doing.
Well, in my opinion, now I've made the joke about review copies, but I really do think they're. I mean, you probably have to say they're probably the best American publisher of comics, just because they're so wide ranging.
They have the widest
comics,
nets
they publish
of quality material.
That's well said. So. Yep, so this is a great project that they're doing, so I hope it continues. It seems like these books didn't get a lot of...
I haven't really heard much about these at all.
I kind of forgot they were doing this line. I remember when the David B thing came out, and then these two just kind of popped up, and it seemed really random, so I hope people do give them another look, and maybe actually gets into the hands of some kids.
That would be nice.
You know, cause I think you're right. I think kids would enjoy them, especially the Sibyl-Anne material.
Yep, exactly. All right. I think that's it for this week.
That says it. Okay.
I don't know what we're doing next week yet.
We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll kind of talk about it a little bit. We've been throwing some ideas back and forth, though.
We've got something cool coming up in September, too.
Yeah. Watch for that.
All right.
All right. Thank you for tuning in this week.
Send those review copies.
Whatever.
Just kidding.
Bye.